Welcome to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dream 100 Show. Today's topic is how do you wrangle influencers and potential celebrities as Dream 100 relationships? So one of our readers and also a listener of the podcast sent me a message last week and gave me kind of the backstory. So they have a product that would be sold to gamers, so people that game in the esports industry in particular. And I happen to know a fair amount about this because one of our clients is actually the #1 Fortnite player as of right now across the globe. And they have this product that basically helps with kind of ergonomics and helps their back and all that good stuff. And they gave me kind of the condensed version that said, we've tried to reach out to influencers in the gaming space. We've tried to reach out to esports people, and we're not really hearing back. We've invited them to a podcast that we have. We've been commenting on their social media a little bit. I'm going to come back to that phrase a little bit. And we're just not getting traction. What would you suggest? So the downside to going after people that are not necessarily just in the game to make money, but they've been conditioned to be paid. They've been conditioned that if they do an endorsement or an implied endorsement, they get paid, is that we have to start to take that into account. And I'm going to give you some of the ways that we've got around this and how you can move the needle a little bit. But when you're working with an audience that is conditioned to want money up front. Now with Dream 100 relationships, I'm all about turning these people into joint ventures, strategic partnerships, affiliates, being kind of the internet marketing phrase to where if they refer you some business, they get X. I'm all about that. But the big difference is that that is all on the back end, and that is all based on performance. So I can tell you hundreds and hundreds of times that I've had people that have said, I'm going to generate so much in sales for you or for your client, whatever it is. My email list is 1 million people. We've got a 40% open rate. We have a great click-through rate conversion. So give me 20 grand. I'll kick out the email and I'll take that 20 grand off anything that you sell above X, for example. The downside to those kinds of deals is that you've got a fair amount of risk. And unless you can actually vet their email list, see the data in black and white, not just on a PDF, but have some clauses in a contract that guarantee certain things, you're taking a pretty big risk. So when you have a list of, and they sent me their Dream 100 list, and it largely is made up of influencers and people that are famous or semi-famous in esports. The downside to these types of people is that they have lots of sponsorships. So you can do one of a few things. Number one is we go to their agent and try and actually befriend their agent. So if they are an influencer or someone that's semi-famous, they have a pretty big following, the chances are high that they are going to have some kind of agent or some kind of representation. Now, I would argue that that person needs to be the key contact for the Dream 100, for that particular person you're going after. Now hang with me because we're going to come back to one core aspect. So you're going to find all of the, here's the business contact, the sponsorship contact, etc. The second piece to it though, after you've then got their information, you're going to start to befriend them. You have to kind of do double duty. And what do I mean by that? So with the Dream 100 strategy, you're commenting on the person that you're trying to build a relationship with. You're commenting on their social media on a very, very regular basis, i.e. 3 to 5 times a week. The double duty is that you have to do that for that influencer. We'll just use the word influencer, make it easy. And ideally the agent, the business contact. So what ends up happening is the business agent, sponsorship person, there's lots of different titles, business manager, they traditionally will have a meeting or they'll float ideas like once a week, every other week, once a month, daily if the person's really a pretty large celebrity. And they're going to start to float those things. But what do you think will happen if that influencer has been seeing you commenting on their stuff, sharing things, and adding value? Just because they're famous, just because they're an influencer, doesn't mean that you can't add value to their life. All still fair game. So when they're in these business update meetings, the agent might say, hey, Michael reached out. He's got a product that I think could be interesting. Do you want me to proceed with the conversation? And they might say, oh yeah, I've seen Michael. He's commented on my stuff the last month or two. So I traditionally will not start reaching out to the agent until I've started commenting on that influencer's social media a bit, reshared some of their stuff, and that I really know the inner workings. Now, when I know the inner workings, I'm going to try and shoot a particular shot. Now, again, keeping in mind that they're used to being paid, they're used to people saying, yeah, I want your endorsement or your implied endorsement. They're used to getting paid for podcast appearances, guest appearance, all of that stuff. But when I'm learning about the influencer and any relationship for that matter, I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know what charities they like and support. I want to know how they grew up. I want to know all of that so that when I start to craft a couple of messages, I'm going to tug on their heartstrings and I'm going to show them that I've done my due diligence. So for example, let's say that they are big into supporting like the SPCA and different charities that relate to animals. I might even open up with that and say, I've got an amazing product that I am confident will change your life, and I want to find some cool ways to play together. But first, to show you that I'm serious, I'm going to make a donation of $1,000 to the SPCA that I know is in your backyard. Not looking for anything in return. I'm just looking to show you that I appreciate all that you've done for this industry. You might say, well, Michael, that's a pretty lavish and expensive gift. With every one of the Dream 100 relationships, you need to size up how much is a deal potentially worth to you. So if that influencer endorsing you could be worth $1 million in business, I can argue that a donation of $1,000 could be a pretty darn good investment. Regardless if they don't get back to you, you still made a tax deduction, you made a donation, gesture of good faith, you did something to at least move the needle in the right direction. So I like to do a little bit of that before I reach out to the agent. So I might try a couple of times to reach out to the influencer. Hey, I know that you have an agent. I'm more than happy to talk to this person. Can I share a few things with you? Can I give you value here? Can I introduce you to this person? And you want to look at all the different ways that you can potentially add value to their lives. One of the easiest ways to add value, and it might not be in your skill set, but it's to actually help them with some of their content. Hey, I put together some social media content for you that you could look at publishing next month. Got all the content. They're all licensed images, just my way to throw it to you. And if it would be helpful, please use them. Like look for things that they might be lacking. Like they've got a great following on Twitter, but they're not posting a lot. I took the liberty to watch 10 hours of your content and I turned them into 1,000 tweets that you can use for next month. Just a small way of saying thank you. P.S. If there's a fun way for us to have a conversation, would love to chat. Like you want to look at all the different ways that you can add value. Now, that to me is step one. You're getting to know the influencer. You're seeing where you can add some value. You're going to try and hit them up a couple of times directly. But in tandem, you're learning about their agent. And when you're reaching out to the agent, that whole point of you putting in some goodwill initially is so that they actually want to potentially proceed with something. But note that this is where things can take different twists and turns. And this is where you have to have a brand. You've got to be able to sell your story a little bit. They get pitched things often. So I would much rather take it a little bit slower and say, love to have the conversation. I know you represent ABC person. I've got a product that I think they're going to love and that we can all make some more money from. Would you be open to a conversation? And what I would approach the conversation with is, hey, I've got a product, but I wanted to just start with, what can I do to help you personally? So now you're helping the agent. Can I connect you with anyone else? What can I do to help XYZ influencer? Like, what are some things that I can do? And you're trying to obviously look at your background. Are there some people you could connect them to? What can you actually do to help? Now, if you strike out on all those, you get to get down into some of the brass tacks. But if you've done your homework, you can say that I know that XYZ influencer. So I'll use an example. Let's say that you are trying to get in with a famous Fortnite player, and you've watched all their stuff and you know that they love Prime drinks or something like that. I see that you don't have a sponsorship with Prime. I can introduce you to the marketing person. And obviously you want to have some of these things in your back pocket before you're walking into the call. But if you're leading with more and more value, that's a much better way to move the conversation forward faster. What can I do to serve you? What we're aiming to do here is we're aiming to try and strike a deal that doesn't require you to essentially pay heavy upfront fees. If they're looking for some heavy fees to make a tweet or something like that, can I throw a different idea at you? I know that this Fortnite player, they love the SPCA. I made one donation already. I'm happy to make a second donation and then also give you guys 30% of the sales. I'll use a tracking link, I'll make sure everything is flawless. I'll make custom social, all this stuff will be delivered to you on a silver platter. And that languaging is key. Agents want to look at how, if you put yourself in their shoes, they're getting a percentage of what they can bring to the table. They also have zero desire to do any extra work. So if you can say, I'm going to deliver all this to you on a silver platter, all that you have to do is have this influencer hit publish. The tracking links are there. You'll have access to the back end immediately. It's all they have to do. It makes it a heck of a lot easier. So when you're looking at people like this, you have to, again, take into consideration, A, they have representation most likely, and you're going to have to end up wooing that person, getting to know that person, and building a relationship with that person, typically second after you've at least built something up with the influencer. Doesn't mean they've responded or contacted you, but you've shown that you know about them, you've commented plenty on their social media, so you're hopefully at least on their radar. But then you've got to do that same thing with getting to know the agent. But know that these conversations, they're going to take different twists and turns, and you have to be ready for all of that. The way that you get ready is that you prepare. You know all the backstory about the agent. You know all the backstory about the influencer. You know the charities that they support. You know where they went to school. Some of their hot points. Maybe they were bullied as a child, so you want to do an anti-bullying campaign and donations. So you got to have all those things in your back pocket. That can quickly start to move you from unwanted guest to someone that's welcomed in. Like, hey, let's talk this through a little bit. I love that you did your research. Because if you know that they're getting pitched all the time, will you sponsor this? Will you promote this? Can we do a deal? If that's what they're typically getting all day, every day, and you're taking a very different approach to build the relationship up, see what you can do to support them before you even go in for an ask, that is how you will start to close more and more deals. The more that you know, the more ammunition that you're walking into that conversation with about both the agent and the influencer, you will be able to move those needles. Now, the last piece of advice that I want to give you is that I would never want to have a Dream 100 list that's only made up of celebrities and influencers. I want all different types of people. I want influence. I want people that are going to be really tough to get a hold of, but I want some people that I think I can have a slam dunk with maybe over the next couple of months. So I would suggest you expand your Dream 100 list from what I've seen so far to not just esports players a little bit, because there's a lot of other opportunities that you have for your particular product. So that is how you start to wrangle influencers as well as agents when you're looking to land them as a Dream 100 relationship. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week. Bye. The first thing is I want you to take 15 steps back to do what I call a marketing 360 audit. And that is where you're looking at everything that you've done over the last 6 to 12 months. What promotions, what tactics, what strategies, how much money have you invested each month in marketing? How many referrals are you getting? Are you offline marketing, online, billboards, Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok, content? What are you doing to generate awareness, leads that result in tours, and all of that stuff? And spoiler alert, most centers are not looking at this on a regular basis. They're just not looking at the hard data. What ends up happening is this data is going to start to paint a picture for you. Are you doing enough to make sure that you hit those enrollment targets? And the chances of you doing enough are often slim.